What's going on, guys? Welcome back to eFishing. I'm Rodney, and today we're going to talk about the baits I like to fish in September. But first, let's talk about September and what the fish are doing. Well, September can be a really tough month to fish. It's a transition month. We're going from the dog days of summer to fall, and somewhere in between in there, we have September, and it can be really hot or it can be cool. And the fishing, well, it can be the same way. There's a few things in September to look for. Well, the first thing, when you start having those fall cold fronts push through and you start having those nights down in the 50s. Now, when that water gets into the 50s, let's say for 3 or 4 nights in a row, that's going to start a trigger to those fish, and they're going to start thinking it's time to start eating for winter. So the shad, that's the key. You're going to have to find them, and they move, and they'll move from the back of a creek out on the main river channel. They can do that in a day, so you might find them out on the main lake one day, and the next day you'll find them way back in a creek. I've got 3 kind of baits to focus on to help you find fish. The first bait we're going to talk about top water. You could fish a popper or something like that, and and they work. But in September, you want to cover a lot of water. So there's 2 top waters that I really like. One is the whopper plopper. The whopper plopper is a great bait, and it will allow you to cover some water. And basically all you do is you chunk that thing out there and you wind it in. Now the thing is, sometimes they want it fast, and sometimes they want it slow, and sometimes they want it with a little stop and go action. But that's just something that you got to figure out during the day to make those fish bite. The second top water I've got that I really like a spook. I like to walk that dog. There's something about that cadence of that spook out there going back and forth across the water that those fish just can't resist. In the fall, and especially September, when they're up chasing bait fish, it's a great one to have. Now, the thing about the top water is you've got to cover water. And to do that, you want to keep your trolling motor on, not real high, but you want to keep it on a steady pace that you can fish that plopper and that spook. And you want to, move from the point to the back of the creek or start in the back of the creek and work your way out and maybe fish the main lake some until you find those fish. And then once you find them, you can run that pattern all across the lake. The next bait we're going to talk about is something to cover water with, and that's a crankbait and a spinnerbait. Now, they both have their places and they both work. Sometimes with your crankbait and spinnerbait, you have to adjust the size of it. Now, whether that could be the depth that it's running or the size of the blades on the spinnerbait. And that's going to depend on your bait and what kind of bait your fish are eating. Now, if they're eating small bait, you want to fish a small crankbait. If they're eating big bait, then, increase the size of your crankbait to kind of match the hatch there. Now, as far as the depth goes, I really like a square bill in the fall because those fish, they'll get up on flats.
That's a big one there.
And you can get up in that
That's a big one.
2, 3, 4, 5 foot of water and fish that square bill real effective. And especially if there's any isolated stumps or timber around, that crankbait is a real good choice to chase those fish down. As far as the spinnerbait goes, sometimes you want a big one and a heavy one so that you can roll it on the bottom out in 10 or 12 foot of water. Or you want, say, a 1/4 or a 3/8 that you can burn up around wood or weeds or whatever your lake has. But just experiment with them and see which one works. The thing about the crankbait and spinnerbait is it's something that you can throw and cover water and catch a few fish on if those fish aren't willing to commit to top water. So here's the last bait I've got for you to throw in September and really all throughout the fall is you might want to keep one of these tied on. And it's a jig. And you're going to jig. But I thought the fall was about the bait fish and shad and all that stuff. Well, it is. But there is a crawfish bite in the fall. And especially on lakes that have a drawdown on them. So once your lake starts to being drawn down, those crayfish, they're up there in that, at the surface, at the 0 to 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot, or however far your lake is drawn down, those crayfish, they got to move. So when those crayfish start moving, that's when those bass start keying in on them. And it's a great little bait to have tied on, and it'll put some good fish in the boats in the fall for you. Hey, if y'all like this stuff, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you like this, make sure you check out this video up here and watch some more fall fishing videos that we did from last year. Anyways, I'm Rodney with Eve Fishing. We'll catch y'all out on the lake sometime. We're out.